Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Welcome back, all you thought criminals and Democratic extremists. And those of you that are new, welcome. From Representative Andy Barr says voters don't care about 2020 election on January 6th. Slams massive disconnect in D.C. Andy Barr says his constituents care more about inflation and the opioid crisis. That's true. Representative Andy Barr from Kentucky says voters in the state don't care about the 2020 election or the House investigation in the J6 because they're too busy dealing with inflation, fallout, and the opioid crisis. Barr made a statement during a Sunday appearance on Meet the Press, which is NBC, by the way. He stated that none of his constituents in his district have even asked him about the 2020 election, despite Democrats' constant focus on the issue in Congress. These congressional seats do not belong to politicians in Washington, Barr said. These seats belong to the American people, and there is a massive disconnect between the priorities of politicians in Washington and the concerns of the American people. I can't even tell you how true that statement is. A massive disconnect is being kind. They just don't care, or they don't choose to find out and care. Period. It's incredible to me that the average Congress member, when they leave Congress, has a net worth 10 to 20 times more or even higher than they did when they went in. Something wrong there, folks. Not once have any of my constituents, Republican or Democrat, talked about the 2020 election, J6, the committee in Washington, or any of these issues. He continued, they're talking about not being able to afford putting food on their table, putting gas in their trucks, and not being able to see their grandson because he died of a fentanyl overdose. Absolutely true. This fentanyl is nothing to do with socioeconomic status. It is a purge that's just cutting through every part of society, from the lowest income, the most dense urban ghetto area, through all the way through Beverly Hills and everything in between. It's insane. Now let's listen briefly. Now this is on Meet the Press. And this is Representative Barr here. Let's hear what he has to say.
Do you agree with her warnings and concerns?
Well, I think it goes to show that, and the election outcomes in a lot of these primaries, it goes to show these congressional seats do not belong to politicians in Washington. These seats belong to the American people, and there is a massive disconnect between the priorities of politicians in Washington and the concerns of the American people. I've been back in my district, in urban Kentucky, Mount Sterling, Kentucky, in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, Richmond, Kentucky, over the last several weeks, and not once have any of my constituents, Republican or Democrat, talked about the 2020 election, January 6th, the committee in Washington, or any of these issues. They're talking about not being able to afford putting food on the table, putting gas in their trucks, and not being able to see their grandson again because he died of a fentanyl overdose, because we don't have control over our southern border. That's what the American people care about, and politicians who obsess about the past are not in touch with the American people. That's why the Democrats
it sounds like
are going to lose
don't believe
this election big
Republicans.
time.
Who knows what he was going to continue? Like, you don't believe Republicans, yeah, blah, blah, blah. You know what's amazing to me? All this gun control stuff. Getting rid of guns is going to save people's lives. Look at how many thousands, and unfortunately those horrible school shootings. It's tragedy on a level I couldn't even begin to imagine. It's the guns, it's the guns, it's the guns, it's the guns. Look at all the people. Look at all the people being shot by police and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they ignore the fact that, we'll say, number one, the deaths that occur from guns, the vast majority are in urban areas, inner cities. They're black on black. They're tens of thousands of young black men just gunned down. What do you get from these guys? Here's their response. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of deaths from fentanyl. I'm not talking about addicts that have been on it for a long, long time. I'm talking about a young person at a party that did something dumb, one-time use. Bang, they're dead. And the response? We even talk about the inflation that they cause and the gas prices they cause, and I don't want to hear it's Putin. I don't want to hear it's Trump. None of these things this gentleman just said has anything to do with Donald Trump. In addition to the nationwide spike in inflation and gas prices, Kentucky is one of the most states suffering the most from the opioid crisis. The state saw 2,250 overdose deaths in 2021. Over 2,200. It is still the number one state per thousand. They have a death rate of almost 50 people per 100,000 population. According to the CDC, it is only second to West Virginia, which has almost 82 people per 100,000 residents. We're talking about tens of thousands, dwarf any gun violence that people die in a gun violence dwarfs it by far. It's amazing to me. Absolutely incredible. It's like the roof is leaking in your house. So what do these morons do? They cut the hedges. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But closing the border, can't do that. That's immoral. No, it's not. It's lawful. And I noticed that the Congress, even when the Democrats took control of all three branches, I should say two branches, the Senate, the House, and this presidency, they didn't change all the immigration laws. They just ignored them because they don't have the nerve to change them. It's amazing to me this fentanyl is crossing the border. It's much more of a national crisis than even COVID was. It's amazing to me. We can go on and on and on about the illegal immigration. It's just amazing to me. I was born in 1956, and I recall my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, were from Italy, off the boat, as they say. And whenever a relative was sponsored to come be a citizen, immigration came to the house to make sure there was room for that person to sleep and there was enough money in the house to support that person so they wouldn't be a burden on the taxpayers. What the hell happened to all those laws? Democrats got rid of them. And in all fairness, Republicans either helped or said nothing when things were changed. Now the border is wide open. Kids in cages, my ass. That was Obama that built those, and they're not cages. It's amazing to me. Between black on black gun crime and deaths, thousands of young black men just gone forever. How many fathers, how many kids lost their fathers just due to this nonsense, this craziness? And those cities have the strictest gun laws in the country. Meanwhile, this fentanyl is taking tens, hundreds of thousands of people, mostly young people. Our future. Absolutely insane. But what are they worried about? They worried about what pronoun you're going to use. I look at this in awe and wonder if this whole thing is in some kind of big, huge, giant Babylon Bee farce. And I'm going to wake up from it and say, oh, it was just a dream from the Babylon Bee, kind of like the old Onion. But no, this is reality. Disconnect, massive disconnect is really, really being calm. And how the hell do these Democrats keep getting voted in? People in the inner city see the crime, the homelessness, the despair, the looting, stores being overrun. I forget what they call it when they all barge in the store at once and just take tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff in some jewelry stores. They see it every single day, but every November they go in and vote for the Democrat. I just shake my head in awe and wonder at it all. And there it is, folks. Again, the future of this country is up to the American people. This November, if you vote for a Democrat at the local, county, state, or federal level, you are a brainwashed fool. The only way I would ever vote for a Democrat again, if that was my either wife's or girlfriend's relative, and that would be iffy on that. Do not vote for Democrats for at least 10 years. We need to clean this out. The Democrats need to start over from scratch and build up a respectable party. It's up to you. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.